Welcome back to Spotlight. I want to go right to my guest, Charlotte McDevitt of Green VI, not BVI, Green VI, Green Virgin Islands. Welcome to Spotlight.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's amazing what you've done with recycling in such a short time. How long have you been here?
I've been here for about 6 years now.
6 years now? And you just started the Green VI about, what, 2 months?
2009.
Oh,
because Green VI is a not-for-profit, and we're looking at sustainability issues in the BVI. And the Glass Studio in Cane Garden Bay is really just our first project. That's supposed to spearhead a whole lot of other projects, including a recycling program for the territory. But that was just an example of how, if you just see it differently, waste can be a resource. And it's that thinking, I think, that could drive a really good solid waste management plan for the territory.
So, waste management as a business is part of the philosophy.
And also removing the concept of waste and turning it into a resource, because it's not waste. Everything can become something else if you just see it differently.
So we don't have any waste at all. The things that we don't use for this particular thing, we use it for something else.
That's right.
And that's the thing. Well, the Green Virgin Islands project with the recycling plant in operation in Cane Garden Bay, which is your first project, you've done some fantastic work. I visited the studio. Bought a little pendant. Which you have to make over, by the way. I think it got broken.
Oh dear.
So you have to make the exact...
Bring it back. Well, bring it back. They can often fix them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, that's great.
Bring it back.
Definitely. Yeah. That's great, because you have to either fix it or make a new one exactly like it.
Go speak to Sisney. I'm sure she can help you fix it.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And you brought some things.
I brought you a little gift.
You brought me a little gift
from our studio, and
let me show your logo. Let me hold up your logo to take a camera shot. Can I get a camera shot of the logo? There you go.
And it comes with a little tag that says handmade from recycled glass in the British Virgin Islands.
Handmade from recycled glass in the British Virgin Islands. And this is what we used to call an old cruder sack.
Yes.
This is an old cruder sack. Of course, we used to recycle the cruder sack into clothes, and that's right. Make something from what we used to use:
that's
flower
right.
bags, shirts, and all those things, right?
So I brought you some glasses for your studio.
For the show.
If you don't like the color or the shape,
I love the color and the shape.
Well, if you don't, then you can always go to the studio and you can choose your own colors and your own shape, and our glass team can make you a different design.
Really?
Yes.
I could get my own. I could get us like a spotlight or something on it. I don't know.
You need to speak to the team and see what they say. But everything, these used to be old beer bottles. They are now drinking glasses for you.
Can we get a closer shot on this? Old beer bottles.
Old beer bottles. And everything, so we melt them down, we collect them from restaurants in Cane Garden Bay. It's not, this isn't a project for all the glass waste in Tortola, it's really not. It was just designed for the restaurants in Cane Garden. It's a demonstration project. It's to show waste can become a resource. That's one of its purposes.
The purpose, yes.
So all our products have a little BVI stamp on them, and yep, so these are old beer bottles.
Wow, that's really fantastic. So every Tuesday evening now, my guests will be drinking out of recycled beer bottles. But so we have any water?
We do.
We have water, so we so you could get the first taste of the glass. That's great.
There you go.
Well, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
So cheers.
Cheers.
Yes. To recycling success. Yeah. That tastes good. I like that. That's all. Lemon Perrier.
Yeah, that's it.
Lemon Perrier. Tastes good. Well, thank you very much for the gift. It's great. I've been longing for a different looking glass on Spotlight.
You'll never find these ever again anywhere in the world. They're unique. They're one-off pieces.
Special.
Even these two are different.
Yeah, I was noticing. So they what they do? They melt the glass. How does that work?
So what happens is we've got recycling bins, and I can show you an image of one of them maybe just now. And we collect glass at Stanley's and Myatt's in King Garden Bay, and then we take those bottles, we wash them, we get the labels off, we crush them, and then we put them into our furnace, and it melts the glass in there. And then we have 2 experienced glass blowers right now, and they're training 2 local apprentices how to blow glass. And the team are producing all the items.
And you can buy these items for your home as well.
It's one of the other purposes of the studio. It's supposed to be the main fundraiser for Green VI because we're a not-for-profit. Traditionally, not-for-profits are always struggling to get money. So we thought, well, if this is our main fundraiser, then it'll be that much easier to be able to keep doing other projects.
And just why don't you show us the other couple of things that you brought as well?
These are just
ornament
things. This is an ornament, so some of it is just fun. And so this is a blowfish that the team have come up with.
Let me. Oh, there it goes. Now you could hold it now. Yeah.
So it's a blowfish.
It's a blowfish.
And this is just a paperweight, a starfish, and again it's got the BVI logo. And this is just a
bowl,
an example of a bowl.
A fruit bowl, a decorative bowl.
We do another bowl right now that's got a wave pattern on it, so it's clear with a blue wave, and that seems to be a really popular piece. But this is just a small sample of some of the things that we have at the studio.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you have a tremendous amount of stuff there. This is just all King Garden Bay glass.
And we're going through
bottles.
200 pounds of glass a week.
200 pounds of glass a week you use.
So we've been open since we lit the furnace on the 1st of March. So we've processed about close to 10,000 pounds of glass waste.
Just from that area alone?
Just from those 2 bars.
Just from the 2 bars? Not even from the area, just from the 2 bars?
Just from those 2.
Wow.
And and then we use the proceeds, well, we've still got to cover our costs, but and we're hoping to do it this season because we haven't quite managed to yet. And then we want to support other environmental projects in the BVI, which includes a recycling program, like I said, that uses the same concept of waste becoming a resource. Great.
Tell us a little bit about your background, how you get to be in recycling and so on.
I used to work for the City of Cape Town, and I looked at waste reduction, reducing waste going to landfill. And when I moved to the Caribbean, which was 10 years ago, but when I moved to the BVI specifically, I did my master's in industrial administration because I understood waste management on a continent setting, but I didn't understand it on an island setting. So I looked at waste management in the BVI, and I also looked at 6 other Caribbean islands, and I looked at how waste is managed on those islands. And I finished that in 2008. And then in 2009, we set up Green VI to, start implementing some of those ideas.
What did you find? Can you tell us about some of your findings from that study?
Well, I thought it was fascinating because on an island setting, what you're finding in the BVI, for example, is it's a small mass of land importing all these materials from all over the world. And really what's happening over the last 10, 15 years is just the boom that Tortola or the BVI has experienced in terms of, population, the financial sector, the tourism sector, and construction, all of it. I mean, it's just really, it's been exponential. And in a decade, the waste volumes grew 3 times. And there's no way to put it. It's such a small area. The island system has just been overwhelmed with waste.
So we're consuming so much more than we need, and for our population size, that we're going to have more garbage than, eventually we'll have more garbage than we have space.
Well, I mean, you look at what's happening in the USVI, they've got a big mountain of waste right now. We have our own little mountain, but also, if you look at waste per capita, between the USVI and the BVI, we are the highest, amongst the highest waste generators of waste per capita, per person. We generate more waste than anyone else in the world because we're bringing all these products in, but then we've also got all the shipping material that protects it. So we've got all that waste coming in as well.
Okay. when you look at the BVI, what you think about regarding what we can do to turn waste into something else?
See, I think if you take each waste stream, and what I mean by a waste stream is waste is, I think perhaps for many people, waste is just something to get rid of.
Yeah, you just throw this stuff away.
You don't want to see it, you don't want to think about it, you don't want to know about it. But if
you got categories of waste.
You have categories. So and if I tell you what they are, you'll know them. You know, you have your organics fraction, which is your plants and your kitchen waste and your food waste, all that sort of thing. And that's actually the biggest waste fraction in the BVI. 30 to 40% of your waste stream is organic.
Is it bad for me to throw all my leftover vegetables, seeds and skins that I no longer want in my yard? Is that bad?
No. Then nature takes it and it becomes food. It's compost. Composting is the best thing for organic waste. In fact, you know, some people refer to organic waste as black gold because of what it can give you. You know, you compost that and you feed your soil again, so your soil can feed you.
Okay, I look at it as the waste from the vegetables and the fruit wanting to be back in the soil as a burial site for them. They feel better if they're buried that way.
But they also feed your soil in turn.
Okay, well, so I'm doing the right thing by putting it into my yard.
And then your
I have started to grow some food.
And then the garbage that you do have is less smelly as well, because you don't have all this food.
I don't have all of the organic waste.
Yeah.
So
but not everyone has that option. You know, not everyone has a garden that they can throw it out into.
That's true. But a lot of us have. A lot of people have homes. Home ownership is not like a regular BVI thing. A lot of us have homes where you have yards and you could. Even if you're not growing anything right now.
I think a compost system would probably be a better idea than just throwing it, because you want to avoid certain vermin and, you know, you don't want to attract rats and cockroaches and things like that. And if you manage a compost heap really well, you can't put meat in there, for instance, or bones or that sort of thing.
It'll just be skins and things.
Yeah, your vegetable peelings, and then you put it and you mix it with some of the dry leaves and stuff, and you create. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to go too far afield. But so you're saying you start off organic.
You got your
organic waste, yes.
Then you've got metals, you've got plastics, you've got paper, you've got construction and demolition waste, you've got electronics. And so you've got all these categories of waste, and if you design a management plan for each one of them, you would be creating your own jobs. You would be I'll give you an example with glass. Say you had to create a resource management plan, not waste management plan, resource management plan for glass. These are some of the things you could do. You could set up a glass studio, and you could make things. You could crush that glass and you could make it into aggregate for construction. You could use that as terrace fill, you can use it in roads, you can use it in countertops and floors and polish it. It gives a terrazzo effect. You can use it as a base for roads to build better roads that don't erode so quickly. You can use it as French drains, you can use it to filter water. There are so many uses.
Wow.
And then you're not importing the aggregate, you're not quarrying, you're not doing all these things. You're creating something here from what is considered a waste stream. And let me tell you what else the problem with glass is. In the incinerator now, it clogs up the whole system. It sticks to the inside wall of the machine, and they have to shut that machine down 20 to 40 days a year to chip that glass off by hand. So, you know, and that time you've got all this waste coming in that they can't process because the incinerator's down.
So with this management system, we could totally eliminate glass waste.
Not only glass waste, you could totally eliminate waste, the concept of waste.
The whole concept.
There are numerous...
I'm still trying to get my mind around this whole new concept of not having waste at all. I mean, that's a phenomenal concept.
Texas have actually just implemented a zero waste management policy for Texas. There are many countries around the world who are doing this. They're aiming for zero waste policies. China is aiming for a 70% recycling rate by 2015. So it's that whole concept of, you know, instead of this linear production system that we have, where we take all these really valuable resources from what keeps us alive, we make lots of useful stuff, but we leave a mess behind. So instead of that linear production cycle, you close the loop on these things and you keep using those same products again and again. There's, for this computer, there's legislation now in Europe where this will never go to a landfill. It becomes another computer because the metals in here are really valuable, and the extraction methods to get these metals are catastrophic. They really, they're very damaging, not only to the environment, but also to people who work on those mines and the economies of the countries that these minerals come from. So to just throw it away or to just burn it is...
Well, I heard him say, I hear on the radio all the time in St. Thomas that you can't take your computers, your old computers, your throwaway computers, to the regular landfill. You have to put them in a certain section, and there's a process by which they go through. And I think St. Thomas is engaging in that same type of process where they're using the old computers.
Well, what they do, they ship them off to the States for processing because they consider it a hazardous waste stream at the end of its life. So it needs a special way to manage it. But with electrical goods, white goods or e-waste, it's called e-waste, electronic waste. Here again, you could create jobs. Someone could refurbish these things. Someone could fix them up again. And then the stuff that's really, you can't do anything else with, that has to be shipped off for processing.
Okay. So we talk about the recycling of glass. So if this got broken, you could then recycle that broken glass again and make something else out of it.
Well, let me think. What we would do with this is we would crush this and it would become aggregate because it's got color in it now.
Okay.
Yeah. So we wouldn't put that back into our furnace, but we would crush it and tumble it and use it as a landscape material.
Turn it into something else.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the glass management.
Yes, we'd have a plan for glass, we'd have a plan for organics, and the plan for organics would be a composting system. And there are many levels that you can have a composting system. You could have a composting system for a big scale composting system that the solid waste management department could manage, and that could handle the bulk organic waste that's coming in from the territory. But it could also handle all the territory sewage. So you're killing two birds with one stone there because you're solving two problems. And with what's left behind, you can either produce energy or you can produce compost. You can choose from those two options.
So you're talking about fertilizer, agricultural fertilizer.
Yeah, you could use agricultural fertilizer and not have to import it, make your own, or you can use it as an energy source.
And how would it be used as an energy source?
It forms little bricks, and then you can convert it, or you can use the gas. It depends on the process.
Depending on the process. Okay. So we've eliminated glass waste. We no longer have glass waste.
So we've reduced the waste stream by 12% by taking out the glass.
By taking out the glass, so we no longer have glass waste. And we no longer have organic waste.
So take out 30 to 40%.
Right? And we are now. We have created a set of jobs for persons to make glass ornaments and glass containers.
And construction material.
And construction material, and aggregates for construction material. So we created an industry out of what used to be waste.
That's right.
And not just glass.
And we're not clogging up the incinerator anymore. It's more efficient.
We're not clogging up the incinerator, could really process waste.
Yeah.
But I'm looking now at what you're saying now. I'm thinking that we're not going to have any waste at all. We might not need an incinerator.
But isn't that beautiful? That eventually you phase out a really expensive way to manage waste that always has emission problems which lead to health problems.
Okay. Now, collection would be a challenge, I suspect, with glass or with any reusable item.
I'm not saying any of this is easy.
No. I'm just, and I don't think it is that difficult.
No.
And the reason I'm bringing up glass is because it's really a prevalent end product that we have. So a collection system would be a recycling system, and it would be a new direction of thought that the population would have to have in order to facilitate the recycling process of glass.
Well, we've been speaking to Solid Waste and the Ministry of Health. So if we had a partnership between a non-profit, between government and between businesses, we could all float the system together. So Solid Waste have agreed to do the collection, and Solid Waste, one of their strengths is to manage collection systems. They are good at that. So they would do the collection for the recycling, and there would be centralized collection points that would be where most of the grass is generated. For example, restaurants, bars, hotels, marinas, and schools. Schools would serve as the collection point for communities, and then the kids can bring and there'd be bins and storage areas, and then they would come and collect from those areas. Now, the reason for keeping it to those places is because you can run really nice educational programs through those structures, and to teach people about the system and how it works, but also to control it until it's more in people's minds.
Okay, I got to take a break for a word from our sponsors, and I just realized that it's so much to talk about that we are going to run out of time, right? and I'm so excited about what you're saying that I'm feeling the tendency to go in too many directions at the same time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring us back to the categories and what can be done with those various categories in terms of reuse before we get into setting up a system to do it.
Let's go for reduce first.
Okay, cool. We'll be right back with more Spotlight right after these words. Keep it locked right here because we're going to give you an opportunity to question Miss Charlotte, Miss McDevitt, right after these words.
Spotlight is brought to you by CCT Global Communication, DataPro, Orion Law, Clarence Thomas Limited, Virgin Island Motors, and Bolo's Wholesale Cash and Carry.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm really excited about this conversation. If you've just joined us, Ed Joenka, and I'm speaking with Charlotte McDevitt of Green VI, Green Virgin Islands, and we're talking about solid waste management, and I had no idea, really. I mean, I heard about solid waste management, and I heard about recycling, but the whole concept of reuse, we are no longer talking about waste. We're talking about reuse of used material, like a previous owned car, previously owned bottle, but reuse. And I think it's really fantastic because it's like you said, it goes around in a cycle. We manufacture, use, and then reuse, and then reuse. And then we, of course, do away with waste altogether. It's fantastic. We started out, we did, I think, 2 or 3 categories of waste. We talk about the organic waste for compost. We talk about the glass for many things, containers, aggregate construction material, and so on. And let's continue with the categories so I could have some structure to this show before I get too excited.
Okay. The other categories, and if it can go. Part of my research is I looked at 6 Caribbean islands and looked at the waste stream, and looked at the various categories. So here we've got organics, plastic, construction and demolition, paper and cardboard, textile waste, special waste, grass, metal, and other. So those are the main categories that they tend to be divided into. And if you look at the BVI, now this was a waste audit done in 1988, so it would need to be done again. A waste audit is when someone goes and counts and looks at the waste stream and examines what's in it. But like Curacao did a fairly recent one, and it was quite in depth. So if you look at their fractions, usually the biggest one is the organics, and then it's followed by paper and cardboard. And you can see, and then, so then it's followed by paper and cardboard, and then you start going into either glass or plastic, depending on what's imported most.
Have you done that same audit here? You haven't.
I used an old audit from 1988 that the BVI did.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where I got these statistics from. So if you look at, so we've spoken about organics, what can happen with organics,
right.
What it could become, black gold.
Right. We spoke of what glass could become.
What glass could become.
Okay, give me another one.
Another example, let me think, which one should we talk about?
Yeah, a lot of plastic going on here, bottles and...
Well, you see, plastic's interesting because plastic, I haven't done the feasibility studies of this yet, but I'm working with a group in the USVI. I'm also speaking to a group in the United Kingdom, where you look at the best and highest use of a material, and so it's a study that you have to do before you implement. There are a few things you can do with plastic. One is you can use it for energy, so you can do waste to energy, and it's got a high energy content. You could also create jobs here, and you could get a small plant that could manufacture the plastic into polywood or to chairs or to some consumable that can be used, and then close that loop. If it breaks, could be put back into
So
that
you mean
loop.
like plastic? You could harden it and make it
And remold it,
and
yeah.
remold it and make
remold
it into
yeah.
furniture.
But the one thing that I forgot to mention was, if you look at solid waste management, there's a hierarchy that they say that you need to follow when it comes to any waste stream. And the first one is reduce. You have to reduce or eliminate a waste stream if possible. So with plastic here in the BVI, a really interesting thing has happened with clear water. The 5-gallon water dispensers you can use. That has drastically reduced the amount of disposable one-off bottle uses, and which is a fabulous thing. That's really what you want to do. You want to take it away before you even need to deal with it on a different level.
So what you do, and what that means then is that you have the same gallon bottle, and you keep going to get water from that gallon bottle with that same gallon bottle, and you use it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So it never becomes waste.
It never becomes waste, and you're halving your cost of water. And I've been working with some charter companies
Because you don't have to continually pay for the container.
because you're not and because it's more expensive just doing it that way. You literally cut your costs in half. So I've been working with a charter company here, and they switched from buying a gallon water each week for their boats. They were using 25 gallons on the boat to the 5 gallons. And like I say, they cut their bills in half, and they don't produce that waste anymore.
Okay.
The same thing I believe should happen with polystyrene. The food containers that everyone uses.
Those foam-looking things?
Those things are horrible. Not only do they become a horrible litter item, they biodegrade into little parts of plastic that just pollute the entire environment, and which we get at the end of the day into our bodies too, and it doesn't serve us at all. They're linking cancers to these sorts of things in the environment. Also, when your food is in it, when you've got hot food in those containers, the plastic leaches into the food. So you're getting some of those plastic chemicals in your food and you're digesting it. Again, it's not good for your health at all. So it becomes a litter item. It's not good for your health, and that stuff should just be eliminated. It should be. You could use various tools. You could tax it to make it more expensive, and then reduce the and then take away the import duty on the biodegradable containers that you could use. Someone could even make our own containers here out of banana leaves.
Oh well. So you say we could take the banana leaves and make reusable containers.
Well, disposable, but they can be composted.
Can be composted.
Yeah.
Okay. So we should not buy those foam containers at all.
Those foam containers are horrible for the litter, for your health, for the waste they generate. When those things burn, it releases all those toxins.
So we're talking about continuous creation of new businesses, reduction of imports, so more money circulate in the economy from an economic standpoint. So all around, this is really a tremendous asset to our lives, basically.
It can be.
Yeah. Okay. So give us go through the categories quickly.
So
and just give me one reuse.
One reuse.
Yeah. So we could go fast.
One reuse for each one.
Yeah.
Okay, so plastic could become polywood, or it could become another chair or some consumable good. So we don't. Construction and demolition waste could become aggregate. You could also have a center where people, when you're building something and you have any scraps left, you drop it off at this center, and other people can come use it. So you're not.
So you could buy used plywood, used 2x4, used 6x4.
A gallon of paint that's half used, someone else can use it.
Yeah.
So to keep it in the system, use it properly.
And that could be a business.
And that could be, paper and cardboard. That could become more paper and cardboard. You could have I think in Puerto Rico they're looking at setting up a little paper mill, but you could have smaller scale things than that as well. And some of that could also be composted, depending on what it is.
Can become
compost. You can
compost.
compost
Okay,
some of it,
okay.
yeah. And then with metals, I think the best thing for metals is to ship it off island for recycling, because you don't really want to have a lot of metal. We don't have the infrastructure to do it, and also a lot of it's quite toxic. So
we can sell it. So we could just export the scrap
Export.
metal that we no longer going to use.
And it's one of your highest value waste streams. So there's some feasibility in shipping it off to a market.
One of the things that I've been longing for here is a used parts dealership.
That's the same concept as the construction stuff. If you're not going to use it, let someone else.
You take out the still usable starting motors, alternators, tires, rims, chassis, doors, hoods.
Even seat belts. I mean, there's someone who's making amazing seat bags, designer bags out of old seat belts.
Yeah. But you could go in and get a used pad for a fraction of the price of a new pad and still have a good car life attached to it, because it's not really that old. And but so those are, let me see, so we've gone through
most of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Special waste is like e-waste or any hazardous waste.
Like
that stuff should be managed really carefully. So it doesn't get, even these fluorescent tubes, they're very toxic. they should be managed really carefully.
Now, when you collecting these materials, we would need some sort of system of collection.
The Solid Waste Management Department have got a beautiful collection system. They are really on the ball with their collection system. So, and that's how they would partner with us. They would do the collection for the system.
And what would be the population's role in this process? How would we? What would we have to do as people to change our lifestyle? Have a different philosophical outlook?
Well, I think, this is one of the reasons for the studio, is to change that mindset of it's not waste, it's a resource. What else can this become? But also to realize that you don't need to go buy something new every time. It's often here if you just look, and and you can create it yourself, perhaps. So I think it boils down to those everyday consumer decisions. Do I really need this? What? Just not to buy so much. We don't need as much stuff as we think we do, and then once the system's in place, to obviously use the system and to reduce our waste stream.
Well, if we were to begin to engage in this process, naturally it would be a mindset change through social marketing, say, right? That would be one avenue we could use to change the mindset. But we would need to put an infrastructure in place to facilitate collection, for example. And while you would go around now and collect glass from restaurants, for example, there's a tremendous amount of glass used in homes as well. Mm-hmm. And we would want to also capture that glass that's used in the individual general population. So that would mean then that we would have to have some system of collection that the population would have to participate in. I know in New York, for example, one system was they had separate colored bags for different types of waste. Paper went in a black bag, bottles went in a blue bag, plastics went in a clear bag, and so what's your views on how a system like a collection system for recycling would work?
The way I see it in my head, and obviously, there's a group of us who are going to work out the details, including solid waste and various experts around the world, is to go to those key points, and so schools, hotels, marinas, restaurants, bars, and to use those as the main collection points, and people would go drop their waste off there. So, you know, if you lived, you know, there's a school in every community.
So if I live in East End, for example,
if you live in East End, you take it to your closest school, and we're looking at glass and aluminium as the two first waste streams to start collecting. So any glass.
Why aluminium?
Aluminium and steel. So any of your, so because some of the food comes in steel cans, and you know, the soft drinks come in the aluminium. So you collect both of those.
So aluminum cans and the you know, the tin cans that have your corn and
yes,
and
yes,
vegetables.
and those are usually steel.
Okay.
So, but the same system can handle both of those. So, so you would take it to the school, and then, you know, the schools, we would run an education program through the schools, and then the schools could have like a little competition to see who collects the most, and, you know, they can get prizes at the end of the year. So it's just a nice place to have a system that could be managed.
But then, as an individual in a home, I would have to make that conscious decision to package my aluminum and steel waste
to drop it off. That's right, and to separate it at your house.
So that would take a certain level of consciousness on my part. So are you going to? Should we rely on our consciousness and our love for the environment as human beings? Should we have some sort of legal structure or framework by which we would perhaps be, for the lack of a better word, forced to recycle?
Well, you know, in Germany they have a system called pay as you throw, which I don't know if we'd ever be able to implement here, but waste that you throw away, you get paid for. The waste that you recycle, you don't pay for. So people always recycle as much as they can because they don't want to pay for what they can't.
How would something like that work? I mean,
if there they use scales, you know, it's a whole different collection system in each house. It's a very different system. Here we need to look at something else. I think.
How would I be penalized for not separating my waste? How can you catch me? How can you catch me not separating my waste?
Well, here it's almost impossible because there's no household collection system. We're all on the skips, so here that system wouldn't work. So, you know, I don't know.
So so then it would be left up to us through a change of heart, a change of mind, so to speak, to see the value of what we are doing. Well, one that just came to me. One could be
I'm sure someone out there's got a really good
idea, right? Yeah, I could sell my aluminum.
The thing is, now
I could sell it to a central location for like you do in the States, a nickel a can.
Now there you bring up a really interesting point. There is no solid waste management plan for this territory. There's no plan. No one knows how the waste is going to be managed in the future. So it's almost standard now for countries to know how they're going to, and to have a plan in place. So when the BVI develops their plan, to put in tools like a bottle bill, and what that means is you put a tax on bottles, aluminium, any waste stream that's problematic, tires, batteries, you could put it on a numerous something. And that's is what Barbados does, and they're one of the few places in the Caribbean that I know of who actually have a successful recycling system because people pay for you get paid 5 cents for a plastic bottle or a can, or and so that would help.
That would do it. So you pay for it up front.
But then you get
and then you get
a refund.
You get a refund.
It's called a bottle bill, and it's a very effective tool.
Yes.
Really effective. But there's a lot of resistance towards it as well, but it's really effective.
Yeah. You could call us. The number's going to come up on the screen, and perhaps what we need to do is take a break right now for a word from our sponsors, and come back with you on the phone and on the text with questions for Charlotte about recycling, and some of the questions that you may have, and some of the suggestions that you make. I'm open for suggestions. I'm feeling the whole thing. I think it's a fantastic idea and something that we should have been doing, but better late than never. And I'm really looking forward to see something like this take off in the Virgin Islands. So you keep it locked right here in the Spotlight. We're going to take a break for a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back with you on the telephone and on the text. The number's going to come up on the screen. We want you to participate. We'll be right back.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm having a great discussion with Charlotte McDevitt. She is the director of Green Virgin Islands, and she have a project going now where she's recycling all the glass from 2 restaurants in King Garden Bay, Myatt's and Stanley's, and brought me some beautiful glasses. And so I'm very happy about those. I think the water tastes better.
It does.
In a recycled glass, right? But we were talking about the various categories of reusables, and we're gonna have to learn a new vocabulary, Charlotte. Instead of talking about waste, we're gonna have to talk about reusable material, reusable resource, resources instead of waste. So there's no longer any waste because everything is reusable. We talk about the categories. We talk about how to reuse some of those categories and how they will be collected and what our role may be in that process. And our role for now would probably have to be taking a proactive approach, taking a conscious approach, realizing the importance of reusing the materials that we no longer want for the use that they were intended for, and taking them to a central location so that they could be processed and made into other reusable materials. The numbers to call us on the screen if you want to participate in the discussion. You can text us and we'll be happy to talk with you, happy for your participation. You can ask Charlotte any questions and get all the answers. But this is a very important development in the Virgin Islands where we really need to focus on waste management and creating reusable materials from the existing materials that we use. We were talking during the break about how we have gone from point A to point B in terms of waste, the growth of waste in the BVI. You have some statistics that you could show us?
Well, I do, but also just to say it's a worldwide trend because in the Middle Ages there was no waste. Everything became food for something else, and then with the Industrial Revolution, waste streams started accumulating around the world. But when I did my research here, it's just so interesting how you see it so vividly on an island setting, because if you can go to the screen here. In 1995, there was less than 10,000 tons of waste coming in every year. In 1995. And then in 2005, just 10 years later, it went up to 40,000 tons.
So it was less than 10, 400% increase.
In 10 years.
In 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's go to the phone. Thank you for calling. Spotlight, right ahead, please. Yes, you're on Spotlight. Speak, please.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening, my brother.
Yeah, thanks for the show. We have a lot of Great Mountain area and at the Brisbane Junction to go to Agassiz Treasure. We had a box there that we used to put in bottles. We had a separate box that was there a couple months ago and last year. We used to put in bottles, but I don't see it no more. There was a green box beside the dumpster. And we should train bottles and then separate bottles by itself. I don't see it any longer.
Yeah, that was a glass recycler. He's actually based in Anegada, Courtney Tomlinson, and he wanted to ship the glass waste off island, and he collected glass bottles in that system that you're referring to. There were cages next to the skips. But the problem was that he couldn't find anyone to buy that glass. So it's still sitting in Seacars Bay, but he couldn't collect any more until he's found another use for it. And we're actually working with him right now to look at those other applications and to use that stuff on island as opposed to shipping it off island. Because no one will buy it. It's not a high enough value waste stream. But it's really useful here. So that's what we're looking at now.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very
Sure,
much
thank
for
you.
calling.
Bye-bye.
Carla, you there? You still there? Don't go yet. Carla. All right, you gone. I wanted to ask, do a little survey to see how many persons would be willing to engage in recycling.
That would be a good question to ask.
Okay, so now when you call, be prepared to tell us how, whether you would be, prepared to do recycling, and would you package your aluminum separately from your glass and your paper and your compost, your organic waste, and take it to a central location so that we can really have a recycling process going. Taking some things and just building something else with it and making another use out of it, something in the home, things that people can do in the home with some of the goods that they have, instead of just throwing it out, just take it and make it into something else. Can you show us and talk to us a little bit about that and show us some of the things that you've come across?
Well, remember I was talking earlier about the waste hierarchies: reduce, reuse, recycle. And what you can't get rid of on those tiers is to incinerate or landfill. Now, the new thinking in waste management is to even take out the landfill and incineration, and to just close the loops using either reduce it. If you can't reduce it, if you can't get rid of it, recycle, reuse it. Which means an example of reuse is. Let me think of a good example. Good example of reuse, a simple example, is if you have some old clothes that are still in good condition but you don't need them anymore, instead of throwing them out, you give them to somebody. You donate them to somebody else. That's an example of reuse, because then you're not changing the material, you're just passing it on for another use. Some people are using old jars, because there's some people making honey now, and they collect old jars and clean them out and use those old jars to put honey in.
And preserves, the people who make guava berry preserve, people who make guava preserves and pineapple preserves, they use those other bottles.
That's right. What we're using at our studio is we're taking old shirts that not even the Red Cross would want, that usually ends up at Parkwood Pond. We're taking those old shirts and making little bags for them to package our goods. We're also taking old boxes from dumpsters to package our stuff that we ship off island, so that we're not importing more boxes that just get thrown away somewhere else. We're using what gets thrown away here too. So that's an example of reuse. And then the recycling is the scrap.
You were showing me some kids that were making, some people were making things, things out of other old things that they had around. Let's go to the phones while you look for that. Okay. Thank you for calling Spotlight. Go right ahead, please. Go right ahead, you're on Spotlight. Speak to me.
Yeah, good evening. Great show.
Thank you, brother.
I really enjoy it. How difficult would it be to implement a collection system where people put out their garbage and it's picked up? I have been having an idea about an insert that could go in your trash, your garbage bin. So it would be like a 3-pack insert, similar. I got idea from, sometimes when you buy the sodas, they have like a square insert that you did a slot in, and so if you had one of those bigger garbage bins, you could just put 3 bags or 4 different bags in your home, and so when you open the garbage bin, you just pick which section of the bin to put the trash. One would take cans or whatever, paper or something, and so have like an easy implementation method within the house, and then you just take out the colored bags and you take them somewhere. But I don't know if, even if you don't have a collection method, if you could take them to the bins we normally take them to now, and then those bins could have a colored or divided system, and then the trucks could just pick them up already divided. That would help. But that was my question. How complicated would that be to set up? Thanks.
Thank you very much for that call.
Thanks. I think it's logistics to be worked out. I certainly don't have all those answers right now. But with the recycling working group, those answers would be thrashed out. But to have a convenient bin at the home, at the source, is a really good idea. Something that, because you don't want millions of bins, you want something neat and compact, like he was saying. And who knows? Maybe it does work out. When recycling becomes the norm here, to have different bins instead of a skip, to have different colored bins. I don't know yet, but I'm hoping we get to something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, along the road, just like how we have the dumpsters now, you could have different colored dumpsters, and you say, well, okay.
And a population who wants to separate, and
yeah. Okay. Do you accommodate student visits at your establishment? If so, how many at a time? I am finding this very interesting for my home economics students who are doing recycling.
Please contact me. If you go onto our website, greenvi.org, so it's www.greenvi.org, and there's a contact us button there. Just send me an email, because what we do we've had a lot of school children come through our studio, and what I like to do with the school groups, and it depends on the age as well, is to take them on a waste tour of the island. So first we go to the glass recycler site in Seacoast Bay that we spoke about earlier, and these kids just see piles of bottles. Then we take them to the metal recycler site where they see piles of cars and derelict vehicles. And then we take them to Pockwood Pond, where solid waste are really good at showing the children around the facility. And then finally we take them to the studio where they see waste become a resource. So it gives them a really good idea of the system and the potential as well. Just contact me through our website, and we can arrange a tour. It's one of the purposes of the studio, is the education and awareness that it can create.
Okay. Greetings. I hope our leaders are watching, and let the schools get involved. Nice show. Well, thank you very much for that. Yes, I was thinking that. I'm hoping that the leaders are paying attention, and even if they're not paying attention, we can bring this to their attention. Certainly, that's part of our responsibility as responsible citizens, to bring these ideas to our leaders if they're not thinking about them, and help them to develop these processes so that we can basically save ourselves, because really that's what it's all about. So even if they're not looking, call them up and say, listen, I saw this on Spotlight, and you really need to take a look at it. Cool. What else we got? So yeah, so we were going to show me.
Yes.
You're going to show us some of the things that's happened. You have it on the screen?
I have it on the screen.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
This was a really nice fundraiser that Nutmeg Designs at Wickham's Key 2 ran for us, and the theme was charity. So Annie, the woman who runs Nutmeg Design, she invited people and schools to make chairs out of waste items. So anything that they found, they could make a chair out of. And this is an example of two little boys who made a chair out of an old skateboard. An old skateboard. And behind it, if you can see over here, this is an old drum from a washing machine that's been made into a chair.
So it has a cushion on top of it.
And then a cushion on top of it. And this is that concept that it doesn't need to be waste. It can become something else. And then these chairs were auctioned off. This was an old surfboard that became a chair. And this woman also made a chair out of driftwood, and a really beautiful chair. And she made a chair out of something else too, and now I forget.
Okay.
But it's that whole concept of waste becoming a resource.
It says, good night. Back in St. Vincent after the weekend disco, we used to be glad to go out in the morning to get the bottles and cans to sell for at least 25 cents. And you have to separate them also. So we need to do something like that here in Tortola.
I agree, because I looked at the system in Barbados, and it's that guy's been going now for almost 15 years in Barbados, and it's because of the bottle bills that they have there. Okay. Bottle bills would really make it work.
Okay. What else you have of interest? I think we might.
I could show you the bins that we're using right now.
That would be good. And now you talk about Green Virgin Islands as a NGO, a non-profit organization, and some of the projects that you want to get involved in. Can you talk to us a little bit more about those projects? I
certainly can. Just to show you quickly on the screen, these are the bins that we're piloting right now that we may or may not use for the recycling. But what's nice about these is that they're really colorful and that they stand out. And they can be customized with BVI images. So we can have like an underwater BVI image, a seascape, a landscape. So we're seeing how strong they are and if they can handle it. Let me tell you some of the other projects that we're working on. We've just been granted some UNESCO funding for an environmental education strategy for the BVI. So I'm quite excited about that project because, you were talking about people understanding, what we're doing. And here I Green VI has partnered with Conservation and Fisheries and the college. And there's a group of about 13 departments involved in this as well. And it's a train-the-trainer process. So the funding is going to train at least 15 people here on what sustainability is. So it's a story about sustainability. It's like what we're doing now. It's telling you a story about waste, but this is a story about sustainable development. And we'll be training these people to work with the various sectors in the BVI. So schools, churches, government, businesses, tourism.
Okay.
So I'm quite excited about that project. We are also working on a clean energy campaign, and if you go onto our website, we've got an online petition to say to government it's really time to use renewable energy here, to make it legal to use it as your main source of power.
I have signed that petition.
Okay.
Yes. Talk to us about the energy, the go green energy, the renewable energy. When you talk about government make it legal for us to produce energy here, what does that mean?
It means, because right now there's legislation from the 70s that say that you are not allowed to use any renewable energy as your main source of power to supply your home or your business. You may use it as backup power, but you may not use it as your main source of power. So, which is crazy. You're blessed with sun and wind in this beautiful country, and Cooper Island and Peter Island are off the grid, so BVIEC don't. Cooper Island right now is producing 70% of their energy on solar, and Peter Island is producing 70% of their power on wind. And it's a no-brainer, really.
So what we need to do is change the law so that we are able to feed our source of electricity into the grid.
To tie into the grid, yes.
Tie into the grid and have and not have the central location have to produce so much electricity.
So much, because what it will do is supplement them. It will also reduce costs, and we won't need to import so much fuel. So it would reduce costs, and it would also make us less vulnerable to constant blackouts. The other thing about I forgot my point here. The clean energy.
Well, we were talking about changing the legislation. And allowing us to use particularly solar energy to feed it back into the grid and not have all the costs that we have, keep the cost of electricity down, and people could invest and produce their own electricity.
That's right. So with our petition, we probably have about 2,000 signatures right now, and we're aiming for 5,000, so please sign our petition. And Hanis have amended that old legislation and drafted how it can be changed, and it could be a fairly simple process. And then Conservation and Fisheries, Angela Penn, has been working really hard on a white paper for renewable energy for the BVI. So for government to develop that plan of how renewable energy can be implemented successfully here with grid tie.
Give the website again before the end of the show. Very informative program. So you could give the website now. We're going to take a break and we're going to come right back with more participants and more information.
So the website is greenvi.org.
Okay, we're going to take a break forward from our sponsors. We have about 10 minutes or so remaining. So continue to call us. We'll be happy to hear from you. So you can send us a text. We'll be right back with more Spotlight right after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, The Radio Doctor, Tortola Concrete Limited, and Varieties in Electronics.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Adrian, coming here with Charlotte McDevitt, and we're talking about waste management. Fantastic discussion. If you missed us, you could certainly catch us on jtvlive.net. You could see the whole show on jtvlive.net, the beauty of the internet. So you must see this program. It's a tremendous amount of information and something that we really need to take a serious look at here in the Virgin Islands. Thanks Spotlight, I'll be willing to do waste separation at home. So we got a few people that willing to do the recycling bit. So that's a good sign.
That's a great sign.
Now, in your studio, you've been training some youngsters, some people to take over. Talk to us about that. Talk about some of the products you're making now, and talk about some of the products you want to make in the future.
We are training, I think, the basis of any project that we'll run, and I think of any project sustainability, is to train people who live here, BV Islanders, and to develop skills. And so we have got 2 glass blowers right now, and they are training. At the moment, we've got 2 local apprentices, and another third is going to join us next month. And the idea is for the glass blowers to work themselves out of a job. It's going to take them about 5 years to teach the art of blowing glass. So it's a long time. It's a long training period. But so yes, we have our...
Okay, and you showing...
So these are some of the products that we make that I didn't bring. Oh, here's some of the glasses, actually. But
Okay.
this is the wave pattern that seems to be the most popular right now. And this is upside down. This is the wave bowl upside down with just the BVI stem.
Okay.
But that seems to sell really well, and people seem to really like that. The profits, when we make a profit, it all goes back to Green VI, so we can run other environmental projects. So that's what's meant by not-for-profit. So
okay.
even though we are supposed to make money, and we haven't yet,
So you're making money so that you
so
can
we
fund,
can run more
the
projects.
organization.
That's right. So there's no shareholder.
You have any pictures of the youngsters who are learning, the apprentices?
Yeah, there they are. So here we've
Okay.
got, yep.
And this is the young lady holding, was it a hot metal thing that she's holding? Like
So you'll have to ask her what all the things are. I don't even know.
Okay. So they're currently learning how
They're
to
currently learning?
apprentice. Okay.
Yes.
And
these are some of the products that we want to start making as our next phase. And so we want to go into really functional things for homes: recycled glass tiles, lights, light fittings, and
so those are light fixtures I'm seeing
Yes.
on the screen that's illuminated.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
And basins and tiles. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we have a couple of minutes remaining if you want to ask us any questions. Let's see, we got another text. This woman idea can create jobs. For example, government can employ people to sort out the recycled stuff. Now, government really doesn't have to do that, actually, to employ people to sort out the recycled stuff. It's conceivable that a person could start a company and employ people to sort out the recycled stuff and bring it to a location where it could be sold.
There are many possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember in New York, homeless people, people unemployed people, kids used to collect aluminum cans and bottles and take it and sell it because you had that 5 cents redeemable value on the cans.
That's right.
So if the person who bought the can threw the can away, the can was worth 5 cents.
Someone will pick it up.
Someone picked it up. They used to have shopping carts rolling down the street. This guy opened up a big warehouse, big processing plant, where he just took in all the garbage, sorted it, put it in proper bins and so on, and took it to those places that would redeem it and then have it recycled. So,
Like I said, Barbados has got a bottle bill. I think the recycler there is on about 6 acres of land, and I think he employs about 30 people. And he has essentially what's the materials recovery facility, where it's all sorted. It's beautiful. It's a great operation.
okay. And there's another text. I want you to give the website again. So if you just want to give the website again, so that
So it's greenvi.org.
in the simple-
Greenvi.org.
Greenvi.org.
Greenvi and then .org.
And of course you have and yes, that's what we were. This whole show just got me going. We were talking about the energy, and you were saying that there's a new legislation already drafted by Harneys, and all we need now is to let the government know that this is something that we want. And I think perhaps you need to explain a little more of how the renewable energy legislation would work and how it would benefit those persons who are able to get whether it's solar power or wind power.
If you look at the I'm not an expert in this field, but I can put you in touch with people who are.
Well, I had Jaco Bass on the show a couple of times.
He can speak to it a lot better than I can. But for example, in the USVI, they have financial incentives. They give you a subsidy on solar or any renewable energy. They give you a subsidy if you buy energy efficient appliances. They let you feed back into the grid, so you get paid for the electricity that you send back in. Those are all fiscal tools that you use to create a renewable energy policy.
All Jaco Bass was asking for is to have tax-free, have the import duty so that we could buy the solar panels and all the...
As a starting point. And our petition asks for that as well. As a starting point, but then follow Angela Penn and Conservation and Fisheries recommendations for a renewable waste management plan for the territory, because it will work here. I mean, it's solar, it's the sun.
And we could get over time, certainly we could reduce our import oil, our fossil fuel import bill, and reduce our cost of electricity.
And not have so many power cuts, because during your hottest times when everyone's running their aircon, that's when you're getting your most solar energy.
Yes.
So, and you're feeding that all back in.
So certainly we could use all these ideas to make the BVI a definitely better place.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
It's been
thanks for inviting me.
A real pleasure, and I'm hoping to see you back again. And I know you're going forward with many projects, and we'd like to see what those projects are. We'd like to give those projects some exposure. We also like to have our government, our elected representatives, look at some of these ideas and see what can be done so that we could start reusing stuff instead of piling up and having a mountain of waste in Packwood Pond and other areas in the territory. And certainly we need to clean up the BVI. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this program. I want to thank you all for calling. And I remember that Thursday is World AIDS Day, so pay attention to all the information coming out about HIV and other sexually transmitted infections, so that you can protect yourself, safeguard yourself, and know all the new medications and so on that's coming out for those of you who have contracted the disease, so that you can have a longer, healthier life, even with HIV, in the HIV infection. So pay attention to World AIDS Day. Don't forget to check us out. Check out Spotlight and all JTV programs on our website at jtvlive.net. You can go on and you can find all the programs that we've had in the past. You can go into the archives. You can watch all the spotlights that you missed. If you missed this program tonight, those of you who've seen it, you can call a friend and say, listen, if you missed Spotlight tonight, check it out on the website. Let us know your opinions. You can make your comments on our comment boards about what you thought of the program, what you'd like to see different, what you'd like to see happen, what ideas or what topics you'd like to have discussed. Certainly, you can make all those contributions on jtvlive.net. Be sure to continue to tune in to JTV Spotlight or JTV Channel 55 for Spotlight on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. and on Sunday afternoons at 4:30 for the rebroadcast. So again, if you miss it, you can catch it on Sunday. And of course, you could see it anytime you like on jtvlive.net. Thanks for your words of encouragement. Your suggestions and criticisms, we need those too. Continue to email us at jtvspotlight@yahoo.com. Continue to email us at jtvspotlight@yahoo.com. I'm Ed Juenka, reminding you that when the spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.